All right, fans of the New Breed podcast, welcome back. It's another exciting, fun-filled episode. I'm one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horsecow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going?
Oh, wonderful. Just getting in some of this. And
Tito's, you actually put the pourer on it. Good for you. I just dumped the shit in.
now if I dump it in, it ends up being triple of what I really want. So
And then you end up on the floor. Okay. So what are we talking about this week, everybody? So this week, Tim and I are going to try something a little bit. No, we actually did some deep homework on this. This week, we're going to talk about the history and the evolution of Christian hardcore. Kind of a wild topic, kind of interesting. Tim and I have been meaning to do this for a little bit because it's a kind of unique topic. And we were around. Tim and I were, Tim is a little bit younger than me, but we were both around for the rise of some of these bands. We got to see it blow up. We got to see some of these bands leave their quote unquote faith behind and become a more secular band. Uh, Interesting topic. And there is no book on it. So Tim and I figured, well, hell, why don't we just get together and talk about it? So here we are. So,
already
Tim, I'm going
know.
to start off with a question for you. What is the first band you ever remember listening to, hardcore or otherwise, that you knew was a Christian band?
It's gonna be the one probably everybody says, but Zayo for sure.
Okay. Okay. See, I'm older. I remember listening to Striper from the hair metal days
Jesus.
and then finding out they were Christian and being like, oh, well, their music isn't very good, but whatever. I just remember the outrageous outfits they had on. So let's start with Tim. Let's start with the genesis of heavy Christian music, right? So I think we need to back all the way up, get out of hardcore, and talk about the Jesus movement of the late 60s, early 70s, right? So this is hippies, this is the culture changing, this is Vietnam. Um, at this point, a lot of young hippies were actually converting to Christianity. And it was a bit of a countercultural shift. And I think, I'm assuming, or I'm speculating that this is where the seeds of heavy Christian music started. And there was a set of artists inside the Jesus movement, quote unquote, music. Larry Norman is one guy I came across when I did my research. He's cited as the father of Christian rock. Um, he There's another his album Only Visiting This Planet was probably it came out in 1972, and as far as I can tell, that's basically where the foundation started for Christian heavy music, Christian music at least. Christian heavy music. I mean, when I did some digging, um, there's a band, Resurrection Band in 72. There was a Swedish group, Jerusalem, from 75. These were probably the original, like we talk about proto nu metal quite often or proto slam. I think this is proto hardcore. Resurrection Band had a 1978 album, Awaiting Your Reply, and they reached number 6 on the gospel album charts, which is kind
Damn.
of freaking wild. Um, but I think this is where it started to demonstrate that this is a niche that had some legs. Uh, I'm sure you haven't heard any of this stuff. I didn't dig into Spotify to listen to it. I just find it interesting that the history goes all the way back. Now, the biggest mainstream the biggest mainstream band at this point, right, in the 80s was Striper, right? So they put out To Hell with the Devil. They went 2 million copies in that, which is what is that platinum? Is a million platinum?
I think yeah, I think 100,000 is gold.
500,000. Yeah, I think you're right. I think your million is platinum.
Yeah. If
Uh,
not, it's one of them. Yeah.
Even still, that's a Christian hair metal band, and they sold 2 million copies in the 80s.
Yeah, that's wild.
God bless them. God bless them. So we're gonna fast forward a bit. We're gonna talk about let's talk about how we come from Striper, right? And at this point, in the late 80s, early 90s, hardcore is it's very, very early, it's very nascent, but things are starting to bubble. And I think the interesting thing that when I did my digging about Christian hardcore was it started to pop up at the same time as other, I'm going to call them extreme subgenres, right? And the examples I'm going to give you is stuff like Krishnacore. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the whole hardline started to be a thing, which was an offshoot, a more visceral offshoot of straight edge,
Yep.
a more militant offshoot of straight edge, I should say. So kind of weird that this stuff all shows up in hardcore kind of at the same time. And I don't know, Tim, if you had to speculate, why do you think it all kind of popped off at once?
I think people back then when it's kind of like one day you're like in your bedroom at your mother's house and like You have like we'll say 90s, right?
Okay.
You have like a poster of like who was big in like 1990, a rock band.
A rock band in 1990. Oh, this is you're coming out of hair metal. So this is Def Leppard. This is Guns N' Roses,
Okay, there
right?
you go.
Metallica.
You have a Guns N' Roses poster on your wall, and then it feels like 2 weeks later you have a fucking, let's just say, not saying this band was out in 1990, but also all of a sudden you have a fucking Cro-Mags poster.
Right, right.
It's just like it clicks one day, like you hear something and you're just like, oh wow, like I really like that, and then your beliefs go into what you like. Like it's kind of like
Good. Well said. Yeah.
it's kind of like being it's kind of like being into like hardcore, but you're actually like a Satanist, and you're like, oh, I found black metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're reading liner notes and you're starting to say, "Oh,
Yeah.
the bands that I like are into this thing. Maybe I should check out this thing." Do you remember the giant Krishna beads that everybody used to wear? Do you remember those? The
Oh
giant
yeah.
wooden
Oh
Krishna
fuck
beads.
yeah.
We should bring those back.
It's kind of like Mayhem. If you ever seen, and a lot of people say the movie isn't fucking, oh, it's not correct. Well, what the fuck ever. The movie
It's a
ruled.
dramatization. You're not going to get 100% correct. I mean, lighten up.
It's kind of like what's his name? I'm forgetting the guitarist's name, and
Euronymous
yeah,
or Varg Verkinus?
yeah. It's kind of both actually. It's like when you see the room right there, he has like a picture of like Kiss and he has stuff like that. But then like they start Mayhem, and it's like that's like, can we say probably the biggest black metal band of all time?
Yes, yes.
I would say so.
Most renowned. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like that. Like oh, I like them riffs, but like, hey, I'm a Satanist. Let's fucking talk about being a Satanist and
Mm,
just play
hmm.
disgusting fucking music. It's kind of like that. You're super into fucking God. You like hardcore, so then you incorporate Jesus lyrics into it. It's kind of like Under Oath's first two records.
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk about them. I think when hardcore makes its debut, right, and hardcore comes from punk rock, right? The origin is stuff like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, and
Yeah.
it's kind of taken a more aggressive tone. I think there was always political commentary and social commentary in punk rock itself. And I think for whatever reason, there was a time where everybody was willing to just experiment and try different shit. And I think that's where, hey, let's look into Krishna because, Ray from Shelter and Youth of Today is into it, right? And, let's look into Hardline because, Vegan Reich and Raid are into this stuff. And let me look at the Straight Edge and Minor Threat and all that. Tim, do you remember the days where there used to be the activist tables at shows when you walked in? It wasn't merch; it was
Oh yeah.
actual activists. For those of you that are of the younger persuasion, it used to be you'd walk into a show and there'd be PETA would be there, or
Absolutely.
what was the animal rights group? There was a Animal Liberation Front,
Oh
and
yep.
there was flyers and shit for soup kitchens, and it used to be very,
Zine,
very who?
zines.
Yes, zines. It was very socially conscious, very much so. So I think this all kind of exploded at the same time.
I think a lot of that changed in the internet age.
Yes, yes, yeah, and the internet makes it so much easier for a lot of this stuff to get traction and be found.
Absolutely. So you don't really need to set up tables anymore like that. You know what I mean?
Right,
Because
right,
you're found through like Facebook and shit like that.
right, right. So
It's crazy to think about that. Not to veer off, but like it is crazy to think about that. Like walking into a hardcore show in like '98, and you would see that kind of stuff. And nowadays, it's like you said, you don't see any of that shit.
nope, you just see a merch table. That's it. This
What shirts go up $5 every fucking time you go to a
Oh
show.
Jesus, it's like $40 for a three-color black T-shirt. Are you kidding me? That'll last like 10 washes. By the way, I have a bag of shirts for you.
And washes, and it's fucking got holes in it and
And
strap.
now it went from a double XL to a medium.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
fucking crazy.
So I tried to find some of the earliest instances, and some of the band that I think I went as far back as I could. The band that I found earliest, I think that there's a handful. The first band I found was called The Crucified. Do you remember them?
Was that a punkish band?
Yes, yes. The Crucified, 84. They
Yep.
were out of Fresno, and they did it was, think of Christian hardcore crossover with like a DRI. So
Yeah.
like a
Okay.
crossover thrash type sound. Yeah. They turn around and apparently influenced a lot of people. They had their second album was The Pillars of Humanity. they get lumped in with another band of the same time, an early '90s. Then we're going to talk to some of some of the bigger names that we recognize. Another band from the early '90s was Focused from Riverside, California, and they were part of the heavier hardcore beatdownish type stuff. Beatdown for the time. It doesn't sound like the beatdown we're used to now, but they were a beatdown for the time, Christian influenced. The two bands that I found came out of the late '80s, early '90s that should have name recognition. The first one, Tim, Living Sacrifice.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, the Hammering Process. Everybody's heard that band. They started out as a Christian death metal band. Little Rock, Arkansas, of all places. Not surprising they had faith, right? I mean, the Midwest is known. That's Little Rock is deep in the Bible Belt. They formed in '89. Their first I think it was the first three albums were all basically death metal. And then they made a switch to metalcore with Reborn and the Hammering Process is the album that I always think about.
Which is a fucking great record.
Oh, it is. I went back and listened to it today, and I kept looking down like, God, how good this was. And I think that was on Victory or something like that. But we'll get to some of the labels in a moment.
Solid State.
Solid State. That was it. The other band from the early '90s, first demo was out in '93 from San Marcos in Escondido, California. No Innocent Victim.
Fuck yeah.
So everybody remembers Niv, right? They were a tough guy Christian band. And I believe is that Dave Quiggle? We're going to come back to him. I think he was a guitarist. We're going to come back to him because his name is going to show up a lot in this conversation because he's played guitars. He's sang in a bunch of different bands. Tattoo guy.
I can't. The name sounds so familiar.
You will recognize his artwork because he did artwork for most of the Face Down Records bands. We're going to get to that shortly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Here we go. Another spirit-filled band, right? From Florida. This is from Pompano Beach, Strong Arm.
Yep.
Their first album, The Advent of a Miracle, was the first release on Solid State Records.
Yeah.
So this is early '90s, right? But stuff is starting to build here. The next band, I'm going to give it away, Tim, by saying Parkersburg, West Virginia. It's Zao.
Why did I always think they were from Western PA?
Because I think they're all from the Pennsylvania area, which is where this is around.
Gotcha.
For those of you that are not local, there is a part of southern Pennsylvania that borders on Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, that is typically referred to as Kentucky. It's typically referred to as Pennsylvania because it's really, really deep in the boonies. I would argue, Tim, they are probably the pioneer Christian metalcore band. The first couple albums were straight Christian. They've trended away from it a bit, but I don't even know if they're still Christian or not. I don't know.
Nah, if you remember the interview we did with Scott, we asked him about that, and he was like, "No, we kind of gave that up a while ago."
Yes, you're right. He was doing dishes during that interview, right? That was the famous dishwashing episode. Yeah, good stuff. But they were a hell of a live band. Jesse from that band I think he went on to sing for Symphony in Peril, which is another metalcore band on Face Down. So after Zao, the next big name I came across was on Goodfellow, also on Face Down, Disciple AD.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
So this is Dave Quiggle. They are from Dreary Erie, The Mistake on the Lake.
Now I know Dave Quiggle from Disciple. You're right.
And here's the thing. I'm going to take a little bit of an aside here. For those of you that don't know geography, like Tim and I love geography, Erie, Pennsylvania is on Lake Michigan. Or Lake Erie. Yes, it's on Lake Erie. And it's in the upper northwest corner of Pennsylvania, that weird little cutout piece. It is known for lake effect snow. It's known for Gannett Press. It's known for Mercyhurst College. And it is also known for a terrifying amount of snow. But here's the thing. We talk a lot, Tim, about how weird scenes and weird places pop up and all these bands overlap themselves. If you think about Erie, you've got Disciple AD. You've got Shockwave. You've got Brothers Keeper. You've got, I think, Rhinoceros was from there. You've got To This Day, which is a metalcore band on 1981 Records. Jesus, you want to talk Straight Edge band from 1981 Records. I got a hoodie upstairs. I should probably give it to you. But there was a lot of shit that came out of that weird Erie PA scene. And it just goes to show you that all you need is a good 20 people and a couple guys with some instruments, and you can build a scene out of fucking nothing.
Yeah, that scene was very incestual.
Yes. They were all bouncing bouncing members back and forth. The last pioneer early band I came across, name should ring a bell. Training for Utopia.
Ah,
So
love that record.
96. They were an interesting one because they were hardcore metal, but also they had a little bit of industrial to that sound, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, and then they went on to form Demon Hunter.
Yes, yes. And so we're in the we're in the early to mid 90s, and there was a weird time in the early to mid 90s where we talked about that book Sellout by Dan Ozzie, where all of a sudden all these labels went nuts and all these small labels popped up, and they were marketing anybody and everybody, so they were signing bands all over the place, and a lot of bands that probably would have gotten ignored or slept on, or on the negative but positive but negative side, given a little bit more time to mature and come out with a more mature sound. They all got snapped up by all these different labels. So, and the interesting part about the Christian hardcore scene was there was the Christian bookstores were a huge place to get Christian hardcore music. So you want to talk about like a captive audience in a non-traditional distribution network. All these Christian bookstores were carrying shit like Zayo and stuff like No Innocent Victim, which is kind of nuts if you think about it. But
It really is, man.
it also makes one wonder, you have the label feeding frenzy, you have a captive audience from this Christian bookstores. It makes you wonder if some of these bands were like, Tim, why don't we lean into the Jesus thing? Like maybe as a cheat code. I'm not casting shade. I'm not casting aspersions. I don't know for a fact, but knowing what I know about human nature, it would not be surprising if a band or two kind of leaned into this to try and get some more eyes on the product. Not unheard of.
If they did, it worked.
Yes, and I mean, if you think about it, I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody we actually interviewed who talked about how they were only allowed to get their CDs from a Christian store.
Oh, yeah, who was it?
We interviewed somebody and they talked about it, which was kind of fascinating. But that was a thing. That was a thing. But all these labels start showing up, which we're going to talk about in a minute. These bands are coming into the mid 90s. You have this network of Christian bookstores as a distribution channel. I think that all went into the pot. That all went into the pot and helped this shit kind of really blow up. So now let's talk about the other side of this. So we're talking about the bands, and we're talking about the label. We're talking about the bands. We're talking about the progenitors of the sound. We're talking about when they came out. Now let's talk about the label piece of it, because I'm sure you and I could, if I would just throw out random label names, I'm sure you and I could each rattle off 5 bands each that were on some of these things. Some of these bands got a decent amount of notoriety.
Some of them are still playing.
Yeah, a decent amount of them are still playing. So when I think of one of the first labels that I in my homework I came across as doing some Christian stuff, dabbling in the Christian market, was Tooth and Nail.
Tooth and Nail.
So this is back in '93.
Solid State, or
Yep.
vice versa.
Yep. They were. I mean, the funny thing is they were big for punk and pop punk was what really got them noticed, right? MXPX was them. Some other bands. Who else did I write down as Tooth and Nail? Starflyer 59. There's some interesting stuff there. Some interesting stuff. But I think and Tooth and Nail did this the way I guess most majors do, is you find some artists that are going to give you commercial success, and that helps you pave the way to underwrite the move that artists that may not, that they have something unique to say, but they may not get attention. It's much like the way a Hollywood studio will bankroll Michael Bay's $9 bazillion Baygasm, because they want to be able to also spend $500 million on Darren Aronofsky's indie flick that, everybody gets really uncomfortable and throws up halfway through. But you're right. So Tooth and Nail, Brandon Ebel is the founder back in '93. He establishes Solid State in '97 as an imprint. So again, those of our younger listeners, there used to be, or maybe there still is, a concept of an imprint, which is a label inside of another label, which is typically it's given to artists to do a boutique signing. What was the one? VOD's first album was released on Super Soul, which was the boutique Ray Capo label under Roadrunner, right? Another thing of a boutique label was Clown released Down the Sun on his boutique imprint, right? Slipknot had their own boutique imprint. So it was just an interesting way of creating distance between the label and a different label that's going maybe in a different sonic direction.
And still getting the distribution.
Yes, yes, and that's the key. You still tap into the distribution network of the primary. So he
Well, what was the
established
other one? Blue Grape?
Blue Grape. So Blue Grape is a little bit different. Blue Grape was the merch arm of Roadrunner.
That's right.
So they were the first label to actually create their own merch arm, which
I mean, they even had the tags on their shirts.
mm-hmm.
If you can find a Blue Grape shirt these days, probably eBay, it's probably going to cost you a pretty
Yeah,
penny.
and it's going to be a schmedium with holes in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
stinks. Probably still stinks.
But yeah, they were the first label. We could do, geez, we should do a whole episode on Blue Grape merchandise. We'll do digging into that. So back to this 97, right? He creates Solid State. The first album that he puts out is Strong Arm, Advent of a Miracle. And there were some decent bands signed to Solid State. I think probably one of the biggest well-known bands is Living Sacrifice.
Definitely.
And so in 97, they got signed. They did their album Reborn, and this influences a whole shit ton of bands coming after the fact. For those of you that have not heard Living Sacrifice, go listen to Reborn, go listen to The Hammering Process. They're good albums, and they still hold up really, really well.
Definitely. They have some. I think they put out a song like a year or two ago, maybe even this year.
Yeah, they did. They did something fairly recently. So aside from Solid State, another label I think which we really should talk about is Face Down Records. So this is formed by the drummer from No Innocent Victim. This is formed in 97. They did hardcore and metalcore. They started out with some 7 inches. I think Overcome, Born Blind were some of the first bands that they put out. But when you think about some of the other bands on their label, right? So you have No Innocent Victim, you have Figure 4, you have Death Star, you have Impending Doom, a deathcore band that did a whole shit ton of releases, right? You have War of Ages. I wasn't my thing, but they stuck around for quite a bit. The band that I always think about when I think of Face Down Records, I can picture the cover in my mind, For Today.
Oh yeah,
right. This is mid-aughts, what is it, early? Yeah, mid 2000s metalcore. Gideon. People don't realize Gideon started out as a Christian band on Face Down Records. They've kind of left it behind and become a secular band, but that's where they started.
God damn, I didn't even remember that they were out that long ago.
And while I'm thinking about it, you go back to Solid State. Two of the bands that probably got the most amount of publicity and the most amount of mileage off their career, regardless of being Christian or not. Norma Jean.
Oh yeah.
Under Oath.
Dude, listen, man. Another thing, if you're listening, them first 2 Under Oath records are so fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
They're literally, I think when we did our metalcore episode, they were both in there. That's how good I think they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you go from what is it, Act of Depression, and then it's what the hell's the other one called? Cannot remember. But them two, they're actually like, I think they're both 6-song EPs, but they're like really long songs. But dude, they are fucking some of the best stuff I've heard back then.
Which is funny that's what they started from in this, and they end up with their Only Chasing Safety, right?
Well, that's what I was getting into. It's like them first 2 are there, and then you have the third one before they Only Chasing Safety. I forget what that one's called.
The Changing of the Times.
Changing of Times, yeah, which is a great record as well.
Which is a awesome record.
I love that record, yeah. But if you don't know about them first 2 records, Act of Depression, and then I forget what the other one's called, dude, you really seriously go into that stuff, because if you're into like the blackened like metalcore stuff, that shit is really good, man. Like there's some really good 2-step parts in there. It's heavy as shit. The vocals are great. I tried to get someone on from that era for fucking ever, dude. I can never find anybody.
Really?
Dude, I could not find. I found one guitar dude, and he never would answer my messages.
No.
He was like the real tall guy. I forget his name, but
right. Some dudes, they just don't want to go backwards. They don't, whatever. To each his own. So while we're still talking about Face Down, right? The 2 bands that I always think about with Face Down Records, I think it's Symphony in Peril, right? Which is Jesse. Well, 3 bands, I should say. That's Jesse from Zayo's second band. Nodes of Ranvier. With the awesome Derek Hess cover. Like, you looked at that cover and everybody bought that album, probably based upon the cover alone, because it was a Derek Hess picture. He had a moment, man, where we remember this, right, with Poison the Well and shit. He was everywhere in the early aughts. Everywhere. And probably my favorite Posse, Christian, straight edge, fast hardcore band, Maryland's own Looking Forward. I love Looking Forward. The Path We Tread, unbelievable albums. If you like that poppy two-step stuff, just go have a blast. So,
You remember 200 North?
yes.
Dude, they did a split. I forget who it was with. God damn, that's so good. I got to figure that out. I'm gonna look that up while we're talking.
So while you're looking that up, we just talked about imprints. So Face Down had their own imprint as well, which was kind of like the JV. It's kind of like their Face Down feeder system, like a club or a farm system for baseball. So theirs was called Strike First. And when I think of the bands on Strike First, I was looking through the list and I actually remember because I owned a bunch of these CDs. The band, do you remember Tim, the band from Michigan, Bloodline Calligraphy? They had a female singer. They did
Oh hell
metalcore.
yeah!
Jesus Wept, which is Dave Quiggle again from Disciple AD. Sinai Beach. So Sinai Beach is interesting because they're a metalcore band and they basically hit for the cycle. They started out on Strike First. They got pumped up to the majors and Face Down. And then their next record was on Victory. So you'll also notice we're not going to talk about Victory records, Tony Brummel and all that. We could probably do a deep dive on Victory and have it be really fun.
I
But
think we did already.
yeah, you know what? We actually did, I think.
That's how many episodes we had. We can't even remember what we did.
He pulled a lot of these bands that did stuff on Goodfellow, did stuff on Solid State, Face Down, wherever. A lot of them ended up on Victory at some point because Tony Brummel was probably chasing whatever he thought would sell, and that's where they ended up.
Where they ended up on Eulogy.
Yeah, yeah. So another two more labels just to think about. Take Hold Record from the late 90s, Take Hold Records.
Yeah.
They did early Under Oath. Probably the biggest name I found with them is Further Seems Forever. And they did Me Without You.
Great band.
Yeah. And then so this is a late entry here, 2002, Blood and Ink Records. Again, this is a Christian label. They did Strong Arm. They did No Innocent Victim. They did this long band name, Blessed by a Broken Heart. And then they did, everybody I think knows these deathcore guys, With Blood Comes Cleansing.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have all these labels that have popped up catering to a specific audience. They have their own vanity imprints or boutique imprints. We have all these bands that definitely influence the scene. Now shit starts really blowing up. Right now, things are really starting to blow up. And you're starting to see a lot of bands actually get some real big recognition, right? So metalcore is starting to blow up. Training for Utopia, we didn't talk about Esocharis, but they were early metalcore. Zao, 1998, they do When Blood and Fire Bring to Rest, which is one of their, that's right before Liberate, right? That's the last one before Liberate? Yeah, Liberate, Exit Paris, yeah.
Their first record was All Else Failed.
Yes, and then it was something. And then it was Where Blood and Fire Bring to Rest, and then it was Liberate, and then it was self-titled and all that sort of stuff.
I can't remember the other record before. But yeah, the All Else Failed, I believe, is their first record.
Oh, and you know what? I stand corrected. Take Hold Records, I have a note here. Take Hold was acquired by Tooth and Nail. And probably the biggest band to think about on Solid State, who signed with Solid State after going from Take Hold to Tooth and Nail, Under Oath. They're Only Chasing Safety in 2004, Define the Great Line 2006. These both went gold. Define the Great Line peaked at number 2 on the Billboard 200. Which is nuts. Got tons of play on MTV2, got tons of play on Fuse. Some of the other bands around that time that were huge, I'm going to bring this one up, and everybody's going to groan in the audience. As I Lay Dying started, that was a Christian metalcore band.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to figure out at what point in ordering the Hitman to Kill Your Wife do you say to yourself, yeah, I guess we're not a Christian band anymore.
I don't know. The steroids fucking.
I don't know. And another big band started out as a Christian band, got a lot of success. Norma Jean. Oh God, the Aftermath was nominated for a Grammy, which is kind of wild. But also, we're talking about these bands. Now we're starting to get up upon the commercial peak. So the Christian metalcore stuff is going. But we're slowly reaching a peak. So we talked about The Crucified. We talked about back in 84. We talked about Living Sacrifice in 89. Zao in 83. Training for Utopia in 96. So 97 is Solid State, Face Down. Living Sacrifice releases Reborn. 98, Zao released Where Blood and Fire Bring to Rest. 98, Esocharis forms Fort Smith, Arkansas. 3 members go on to form Living Sacrifice, kind of wild. Under Oath, 99. Active Depression comes out. Here's a banger, Tim. I remember being completely blown away the first time I heard this album in 2002. Norma Jean releases their debut album, Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child,
Yeah, I mean,
which is still a bonkers album.
it's it's one of them records with, like you said, when you first heard it, you were just fucking blown away.
And I don't, no offense to anybody, without Josh Goggin, it's not the same. It is not the same band. I don't even listen to it. It's like Shai Hulud. No offense, Gear. If it's not Chad Hulud singing, I don't want to hear it.
Or the Chariot.
Yes, yeah, Josh's voice made that band. So 2004, Under Oath releases They're Only Chasing Safety, goes gold. 2006, Under Oath does To Find the Great Line, #2 in the Billboard. And then '06, Norma Jean, Oh God, the Aftermath, receives a Grammy nom. But now, this is where things are starting to change. And in my research, I think it comes down to you have bands who started out as a Christian band, and they're getting more and more notice, more and more notice, more and more notice, more and more commercial mainstream popularity. One term that I came across in an article when I was deep diving was the crossover. They called it the crossover paradox, and it's defined as these bands brought Christian hardcore to an unprecedentedly wide audience, and the mainstream appeal highlights a tension between the band's identity as a quote unquote ministry and their professional pursuit as a band. So you're serving God, but you're also playing in a band. And bands with overtly Christian lyrics never got really big in the mainstream. Zayo begins to shift from a Christian band to band whose members are Christian. This shift makes the music more accessible, but it also kind of fades away from the Christianity.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think a lot of bands eventually went that route, especially like you get older and you're just
yeah,
like
you, you're you
time
kind
for
of
it.
change. Speaking of Christian, we'll take a side note. I finally got through that Sean Ryan interview with Dave Mustaine.
Oh, would you like? Did you
What
like it?
a He has an interesting life story. He really does.
He's got a fucking
Very, very
ego
interesting.
too.
What?
He's got an ego too.
Well, he's got an enormous fucking ego, but there is no way that him and James Hetfield could have been in the same band. There is
No,
no way that him and Lars could have been in the same band. And I would argue that I think he was better off forming Megadeth, because I went back and listened to Peace Sells. I went back and listened to Rest in Peace. Excuse me. Wish I'm Sorry is a masterpiece, perfect album front to back.
just made me
Um,
young.
and then I went down through Countdown. I went down through Euthanasia. That's where things kind of lost it for me. But God bless him, right? I mean, what a wild story, right? Growing up, and mom just leaves. She
Yeah,
moves out, leaves the kid behind.
grows up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yep. And then bolts, and he was possessed, and I don't kind of insane.
Talking about witchcraft and yeah,
Yep.
it was a
Yep.
crazy interview. Actually thought it was a really great interview. I love the part when he was like, "Yeah, they wanted me to go out on Saturday mornings and knock on strangers' doors that didn't want us there." He's like, "I just wanted to watch fucking cartoons."
Right. He's like, I'm like everybody else on Saturday morning. I want to sit home in my underwear, scratch my chest, and watch TV. So, yeah. So they talked about when I did some research, and I found a couple of articles. August Burns Red, right? They were an early Christian core band. Now they're just a band who just have members happen to be Christian. By the way, they just announced the lineup for the Christmas Burns Red show.
No, I did not.
I'm probably going on Saturday, but here we go.
Is it
Christmas
2 days?
Burns Red, yeah, Friday and Saturday. So here we go. On Friday, where is it? Friday, December 12th. August Burns Red, 20 years of Thrill Seeker and 10 years of Found in Faraway Places. So it's Currents, a guest who they haven't named, the Callous Dowboys,
Yeah.
No Cure, and Psycho Frame.
Wow.
On Saturday, direct support is Animals as Leaders, Boundaries, Left to Suffer, War of Ages. Here we go. We were just talking about them, and I don't know who the last band is. They have like a splattery type. Reverent. It's Reverent.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's deathcore. I have no idea who this band is.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take your word for it. So yeah, I'm probably going on Saturday because Friday would be too hard. And as much as I really want to see Psycho Frame and No Cure, I'll take Boundaries, Left to Suffer, Tosin, whatever. We'll take it. Okay, so back to our scheduled recording. So late 2000s, early 2010s. You have the what amounts to the deconversion trend in Christian hardcore and metalcore. Metalcore obviously bigger than hardcore at this point, where a lot of these bands are starting to not walk away from their faith, but they're going from a Christian band to a band that's just happens to be Christian. A lot of the bands, when I read some interviews and did some digging, they were really worried about being judged by they were being confined to a box, right? Pigeonholed by their faith and not their musical ability. Because I'm sorry, I am not a huge August Burns Red. I am a fan. I think I've seen them. I think this is the second or third year in a row I've seen them. They put on a fucking awesome show. Good musicians are good musicians, and I can understand the sentiment with not wanting to be captured into a box, right?
Yeah, they're super tight live.
Yes, yes. So along with this, obviously, we're back to this. The biggest, most damaging part about the whole Christian scene was Tim Lambesis. He tried to hire hitman to murder his wife. He basically put a giant black eye on the Christian metalcore scene, and it just sad that you're judged by what is it? My mom used to say you're judged by the company you keep.
Yep.
And sadly, he kind of put a big tar slash across the front of it. But also, the other thing that goes into the waning in Christian hardcore and Christian metalcore is Tim, 20 late 2000s, early 2010s, physical media is well along the way to dying. Christian bookstores are starting to disappear, right? Because music consumption shifts towards it's digital and streaming. Um,
And piracy.
yep. And there was at the same time there was a rise of evangelicalism inside of the American Christian movement, where they were quote unquote referred to as paleo conservative. So they were going back to their conservative Christian roots, and there was remarks made about how they didn't want to attract people like drug addicts, and other undesirables to the church. So that led to a little bit of a schism as well. And then there were some bands, I think, just as they got older. To your point, they got older. They started to wonder more about their faith, where they treated their faith as a commodity. And I can see where it things forked, and people went in different ways.
We got to remember too, half of these bands we're speaking of are probably what in their 40s at this moment.
Yeah. Your world changes, man. You're not the same person at 16 that you are at 25, that you are at 35, that you are at 50.
No, not even close.
Not even close. Not even close. So if you think about it, if we had to, I mean, Trading for Utopia played Furnace Fest in 2023. So their bands are still kicking around. There's still some demand for that. I don't know how much is nostalgia and how much of that is earnest, but I think it's
Probably half.
yeah. I actually, if I had to put a capper on this episode, Tim, I don't think it's that Christian hardcore it died. I think it just kind of evolved and it dispersed into just what is. Like nowadays, I mean, people don't bring it up to the forefront. I mean, I think Face Down Records is still kicking around, so there are still some Christian labels there, but I don't think people use it as a marketing piece more as much. It's really just
I
just
I
something we are.
I haven't heard it used as something like that in forever. I mean, back then you would definitely see that kind of stuff like on flyers and shit like that, but you don't
Yeah,
see that anymore.
yeah. And Joe Hardcore, if you're listening, please get looking forward to play a reunion set at next year's This Is Hardcore with VOD as well. Okay, so we talked about. I mean, Tim, we basically ran the gamut. You know who we didn't talk about? X-Toll. You remember them
Oh fuck
from
yeah.
Norway?
X-Toll was they put out a record the same time as Living Sacrifice. Didn't they do a split?
I think so. They did. It was Burial. Is that the album you're thinking of?
Yeah, Burial. Dude, a lot of people love that record.
That is wild.
It's gonna have like a cover, it's like blue or something.
Are you thinking of? I think you're thinking of Undeceived. It was black and white. X-Toll was Burial was yellow with a. I'm trying to find it. Where's the blue one? It's not that one.
I just swore that. I've listened
Yes,
to
you're talking about the EP, Mesmerized.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that was an
okay.
all blue cover. Yeah.
I listened to that not too long ago, actually. It wasn't, it's not that bad. It's because people
And yeah,
say it.
Solid State.
Yeah, I remember X-Toll though.
That's kind of wild. So yeah, I mean, this was a thing, man. It was a thing for a bit. And to the credit of the hardcore scene, I remember nobody being really kind of judgy about it. Like there much like we talked about the underverse, the hardcore scene, where there are bands like, not talking shade, but there are bands, not throwing shade, there are bands like Kaonashi, bands like Boundaries, Orthodox, No Cure. There was a whole other hardcore scene adjacent to the hardcore scene we're used to.
Oh yeah,
There was an adjacent Christian hardcore scene where bands would tour and play Christian bookstores and stuff like that. And
Kershaw.
there was more than enough appetite for it that it worked. And I mean, God, can you not sorry. Could you imagine being a fan of Christian hardcore and your parents only letting you buy music from the Christian bookstore, and then finding out like Zayo's coming around with Wages of Sin or like War of Ages? Like, it's kind of cool, dude.
Is that what you consider yourself Christian?
Yes, yes. I won't say Catholic, but I do consider myself Christian. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, mom. I was baptized Catholic, but yeah, not there. Yeah, I mean, it was so. I will say this, Tim, and then I want to throw it to you for your thoughts. This was an interesting research project for me, at least. I think I didn't learn anything per se, but I found it very fascinating the rise and the fall, which those trends come and go. And I don't know, maybe in 10 years we'll see Christian, I don't know, Christian grindcore. Could you imagine what that would be like?
Remember that band Creation is Crucifixion?
Yep, yep.
What a sick fuck.
Or what's
Sick
the
fucking
other?
band.
What was the other band where they had everybody playing in lizards and they closed out Psycho Las Vegas, and the lead singer got into all sorts of legal trouble, and the band got, I'll find the name.
Oh,
Something,
I
it
know what
was
you're
also
talking about.
religiously themed. Um,
God, now I forget what they are, but I know what you're talking about.
but yeah, man, I mean, it was kind of a fascinating trip through something that nobody, I don't think, ever expected to be big, and yet here we are. So, what are your thoughts, Tim?
I think a lot of the bands that we talked about were heavy, heavy in my cycle of, let's just say, if I had like a, remember back then you would have in your trunk, you would have like a 10 disc CD
Yep.
changer. If I had a 10 disc CD changer, I think four or five would be bands like that. I mean, because, dude, I listened to all them bands back then,
Yeah.
and it didn't matter to me if it was Christian. I didn't give a shit about that, dude. I
And
mean,
that
I was
so that
also,
you bring up
I
an
was
interesting
baptized.
point, Tim. You bring up an interesting point. We liked the music, the message was part of it, but we didn't get hung up on it. I think the problem is when you lead with the message, you lead with the narrative. That's where people are like, I don't know.
Yeah, like I'm not a Satanist, but I fucking love black metal. You know what I mean? I don't have to be a Satanist to love black metal.
Yeah,
Just love the music. I don't
right,
listen to it and fucking hail Satan.
right. It's just, if it's the more it sounds like it's recorded on a boombox in somebody's closet, on some hissing cassette tape, the better. Uh
I think part of it too is people like stuff that they don't understand as well. Like that's big with black metal for a lot of people. They don't understand it, but they're intrigued by it. It's kind of the same thing for the Christian thing. Like you don't understand it, but you're intrigued by it. You know what I mean?
Right, right. That's a good way to put it. You don't get it, but it seems kind of interesting. Let me check this out.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't understand or are intrigued by, especially younger kids these days. You know what I mean? Like you see
Yeah,
that all the time with stuff, and you're like, "What?
yeah.
You like that?" I don't
Uh,
really like it. I don't really like the message. I just like what it's, what's the
right.
word?
I like the music. I like the vibe. I like what the energy they put off. I may not resonate with the message. It's like the fact that you and I both love vodka, and yet we will listen to straight edge bands, and it won't even matter.
Yeah.
Like big fan of Orthodox. Think No Cure is great. Magnitude ain't so bad, right? I don't really vibe with the whole, to thyself be true, no drinking, X up, whatever.
I'll listen to Earth Crisis, but I ain't straight edge.
Yeah, but you can enjoy the music and hear the message, but you don't have to resonate with the message in order to listen to something. But also, I think Tim, you and I are of the ilk where we have the age old debate of separating the art from the artist. We have the ability to do that.
A lot of people don't. Yeah, I
A
was wearing
lot of people don't.
Orthodox. was wearing an Orthodox shirt not too long ago and drinking a fucking drink, and I was like, whatever. It's had it right on the back, three huge X's. I was like, fucking care.
It's kind of funny though. I mean, I have definitely been drinking with an Earth Crisis hoodie and looked down and been like, oh, the irony.
Yeah, it's funny
Uh,
though.
So I will say this. First of all, I want to throw out to all the listeners or anybody watching on YouTube. Leave us some comments on what you think about this type of episode. Is this something you'd like to see more of? It was kind of fun for Tim and I to do, but we're trying some different shit. Let us know if you're interested. I have a list of something like 30 plus sources of all the sites that I used and all the articles I referenced. So if I unintentionally plagiarize somebody, I apologize. Reach out and let us know. We'll offer a public apology. But I
Send
pulled
you a
from
sticker.
yeah, well, I'll send you a sticker and a triple XL t-shirt. I pulled from Wikipedia, I pulled from Discogs, I pulled from all different sorts of places. Even some like Christian music websites, trying, Internet Archive, trying to find some stuff. So it's kind of a fun exercise. So yeah, for those who are watching and listening, if this seems neat to you and you'd like to see us do some other weird genres, I mean, Tim, we could do Hardline. I think that'd be an interesting dive. We could do Krishnacore.
We got to
That
find
would be
someone who is like really into the hard line, straight edge stuff, and get them.
Yeah, and get them on. Maybe the Sean Mutabi or whatever, the guy who apparently was the originator of the whole thing. I got that book over there. I gotta eventually finish it. Okay, Tim, final thoughts before we wrap it up.
I
Any
think
final thoughts?
I think, I think the one thing you should do, if anything from this episode, is listen to the early Zayo, the early Under Oath stuff. I think you'll really like that. All the bands that you pretty much mentioned, like Training for Utopia,
Living
Living
Sacrifice. Yep.
Sacrifice, check all that stuff out. Even if you don't care about the Christian shit, it doesn't really matter. The music's really good, man.
Yeah, right.
Some
Don't
of
don't
them bands,
judge. Yeah.
yeah, some of them bands were like will really surprise you.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. So with those words, find us every Wednesday at 12 p.m. for a new episode, or Friday at 12 p.m. for a new video reaction video, what have you. Twitter, Instagram, New Breed _ podcast, New Breed Podcast at gmail.com, 267-297-4627 for all your audio complaints, comments, concerns, or questions. Find us on r/new metal and our Facebook page. We will see you next week. Thanks for coming with us on the journey. Cheers.
Later.